I recently started training a lot in MMA, so I train 7 days a week, 2 hour practices every day. Um, 3 days out the week, it's a 4 hour practice, and one day out the week, I have 6 hours of straight training because I also go to the gym. So the issue is that I still really want to weightlift and do MMA at the same time. And I know that's a big issue people run into. They start weightlifting and they love it, and then they learn about fighting and they really want to try fighting, but the schedule interferes with their weightlifting schedule. So that's just what I'm going to teach in today's video, is how to balance MMA or any martial art and your bodybuilding. So when you're fighting and you're doing weightlifting at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, it is so hard. It is really hard. You're gonna have to have a lot more rest days than normal. You're gonna have to have a lot more recovery than normal. And so what I do is I just do 2 rest days instead of one. And that's my sweet spot, basically. That's where I find the best recovery while having the most productive week when it comes to bodybuilding and MMA. Another thing I do is I won't weightlift on the days where I train 4 hours because, I have to work around my schedule. I have school in the morning, so I can't be done with school, then train 4 hours, and then weightlift for an hour and a half on top of that. The only exception is Friday. That is my 6 hour training day. That's like the hardest day out of the week. And that's because I can sleep in on that day. So you just don't weightlift on your really hard days of practice. And if you do want to weightlift, if you have the opportunity to, you should weightlift on your practice days. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to affect it that much. So just weightlift on your practice days. One issue that you will commonly run into if you choose to do both in the same day, though, is you're gonna have less performance in one of them. So if you do your MMA practice before your weightlifting, you're going to be really tired in your weightlifting. If you do your weightlifting before your MMA, you're going to feel weaker in your MMA. So you just have to choose what you prioritize. Me personally, I don't really have a choice because my MMA practices are later in the day, so I have to weightlift before it. And another thing you got to realize, if you do MMA, you have to realize you're not going to be building as much muscle as your friends. You're going to be recovering a lot more from just the strenuous act of fighting, and you're just not going to be able to work out as often. That's just a bullet you have to bite. You have to realize your priorities. Do you actually want to be a fighter? Do you want to be cutting weight all the time for your next tournament, competition, fight, or whatever? Do you want to be burning a lot of calories at practice and that calories aren't going to muscle? It's really your choice. You need to choose what you prioritize. Or do you want to go all in on bodybuilding? Do you want to drop everything and just try and be as big as possible? The choice is up to you, okay? Don't let anyone say, oh, you're a bitch if you quit fighting and you go in on bodybuilding. If it's not authentic to you, just go for it. Personally, I love fighting, and I prioritize that over weightlifting. Another bullet you're gonna have to bite is gonna be just being sore all the time. So let's say you hit chest, and even 2 days later when you're going to the MMA gym, your chest still might be a little sore. The next day it's gonna be sore. Legs, the next day it's gonna be sore, and you're practicing like that. That is one thing you're gonna have to take into account when you do MMA and bodybuilding at the same time. So that will have an effect on your performance in practice. One thing I do as well, since it does have a performance of it, like, negatively affects your performance, I don't work out before my competitions. I know that's very obvious. If I have like a wrestling meet or a kickboxing smoker, or if I have a jiu-jitsu smoker competition, whatever, I just won't work out like 3 days before that, so my body is at peak performance, it's recovered, and it's ready to compete. So that is a really good thing you can do for competition. And that goes back to what I'm saying. You're going to be taking a lot more rest days than normal. You're not going to be building as much muscle as your friends. And that's just something you have to take into account. It's whatever. You're going to be better at fighting than them. So if that's your priority to become a really good fighter, then go for it. That's it for today. See you later, bro.